If Title IX couldn't get any bigger, if the lawsuits couldn't get any better, and is there no longer going to be a spring game in college football? Honestly, who is really surprised at any of this? Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to Inside the Huddle. I am your host, Lucas Hill. Thank you guys once again for hopping on in and joining us as we have a lot to talk about today. We really have a heck of a show for you planned as usual. But look, everybody do us a favor. If you're joining us, no matter where you're watching, if you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, make sure that wherever you are, give us a follow. Make sure that you are liking. Make sure that we're subscribing. Make sure that we repost to all those friend groups. Make sure you repost to your followers if you're watching us on X. If you're watching us on Instagram, make sure you share it with your group chats that you got in. Make sure you get the word out that we are live right now. Because you do not want to miss what we're talking about right now. Let's get into this. First of all, this was the news that I saw on Thursday, and I was thinking about dropping an episode. Actually, not even Thursday. It was on Wednesday that the news actually dropped. That last chance, TMZ was one of the first to report about this. So, Last Chance U. Some of the stars from seasons 1 and 2 are now officially suing Netflix and a bunch of other production sites. And they are now officially going ahead and suing Last Chance U. Yeah, Last Chance U stars are now suing Netflix for $30 million, which I thought, honestly, it was only a matter of time before we saw this. Because, unfortunately, what has been going on with NIL is that, there is no window with how long you have to be out of college in order to sue. And to be honest with you, this was coming. We knew that this was about to come. So let's kind of dive into the article a little bit. I've got the TMZ article up, but I'm going to pull up I'm going to pull up this article. I'm going to pull up the ESPN article so that we can kind of dive into it together. So the TMZ says several stars from the original Last Chance U season, specifically 1 and 2, I have not heard word that JB is going to get involved in it. I don't know if any of those guys are going to get all that involved. I'm not sure because he said something about it on his live show. Shout out Coach JB. Because he put out a tweet that said that he wanted to be involved and get $100 million on it. I don't know, man. It's just weird knowing that there's just so much going on, and then there's so much to just dive into that it just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense right now. That we'll see. All I can say is we'll see. So specifically Last Chance U season 1 and 2. Here's the problem with what NIL and what the NCAA got themselves into when they allowed for this to happen in 2021. When you have lawsuits like the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit back in 2014, when you have that dude from Arizona State that was involved in it as well, when you have the Reggie Bush lawsuit, there is the 83 NC State Wolf or the 1980 or 83 NC State Wolfpack lawsuit that's impending right now. There is just so much that is going on right now that it's almost incredible to me. But at the same time, look, we knew this was going to happen at some point because of what's going on. We talked about the 83 team being involved in the lawsuit. Shout out CFH. What's up, Headlines? How are you today, sir? Good to see you. Hey, get your butt in here, okay? Get your butt in here. We need to get you on the show at some point, brother. I invaded Headlines' live show the other day. But this is essentially what NIL has come to. Bear with me one second, guys. Come here. Let's go. Because my dog wants to go outside. So, NIL has gotten to a point where there is no window of how many people can sue the NCAA for compensation. NC State's doing it. Reggie Bush was doing it. I guarantee you there's more lawsuits that are about to come. Hell, you can go back 10 years ago. Johnny freaking Manziel, I think, could sue. At least I would love for him to sue, because look at how many number 2 jerseys were out there wearing Texas A&M. They built a freaking stadium because of him, because of the amount of money they were generating, because of Johnny Manziel coming to Texas A&M and winning a Heisman Trophy and being the most popular athlete in college football at the time. And it was incredible to see that. And you want to tell me that dudes like this couldn't get paid? It doesn't make sense. You can go back to his college career. Look, there's a lot of things that can point to this. I think Texas A&M spent what, $200, $300, $400 million just to expand on the then Kyle Field. It was just incredible to me just seeing all of that happen. A.J. McCarron was a top 3 jersey seller. You could go on the NCAA website. This is what he said on McCready and Siskey's podcast, if you ever watched that. You could go on this podcast and listen. He was a top 3 jersey seller. You go into the NCAA's website. You could type in A.J. McCarron, and they would have number 10 jerseys from top to bottom on their merch site. And it would just say custom number 10 jersey. Wouldn't have nothing on the back. It'd just say 10. This is what NIL was supposed to be, and this is what guys in the past want. And Last Chance U is getting involved in it because of how well known they became following the series. They became nationwide well known. Look, you're talking about a lot of views that were evolved. A lot of people were looking at this show. You're talking about one of the highest rated shows on Netflix. It's still on. So they're suing them for $30 million. I guarantee you Netflix made a hell of a lot more than $30 million off of this. Because I think they won a couple awards with it as well. That's what's incredible to me. is that there's so much crap and there's so much garbage that they deal with this. And they end up basically kind of screwing the kids off. I mean, consider me crazy, but I'm just telling you how it is. Now, they still have some other documentaries, like they have the Wrestlers documentary from the Ohio Valley Wrestling promotion from on Netflix that got released 2 years ago. And then you have Cheer that both guys, Greg Whiteley was both involved in. Greg Whiteley is an award-winning director. So if you think that there isn't something fishy going on with this, and why that because of NIL being in place, why they didn't get any money off of it, it's incredible to me. But anyway, let's read the article after my little rant there. Multiple players from 2015 and 2016 EMCC football teams, including Ronald Ollie and John Franklin III, filed the lawsuit in LA this week about a decade ago after they gained national notoriety from multiple episodes of Last Chance U. Now, believe it or not, I talked to Isaiah Wright the other day about this, and I was like, dude, what's going on with this? And he texted me that he wanted to hop on. So maybe we'll be getting Isaiah Wright to have his side on. He said his lawyer is probably going to text me. I have not heard from him since Wednesday, though, but we'll see. He said he's waiting on my lawyer to get back with me. He's probably going to text, call, or email you. Said, sounds good. See you then. Cool. There's just so much to get into with this too. I've talked to Zay before, and I've talked to him about this. It was insane. Just seeing what was going on throughout this whole ordeal. And he shot it to me straight about how there was a lot of scenes that painted him in a bad image. I talked to Brittany Wagner, who kind of said the same thing. By the way, Brittany Wagner last year appeared on my show. Not Inside the Huddle, but she appeared on our old podcast. We had a hell of a show last year around this time. I think it was actually in May that we had a show. It was her. It was Marty Burlsworth of the Burlsworth Foundation. That's Brandon's brother. I'll hop on the show and talk about their stories. And Brittany said that there was a lot of things that were fabricated. You can go in and listen to the show. I'll post this thing in the comments right now. But look, there was a lot of craziness that happened throughout that area. So the document followed the athletes as they navigated through the rigors of EMCC in accordance with the lawsuit obtained by TMZ Sports and Netflix and a host of other defendants, including the National Junior College Athletic Association and EMCC, netted some big profits after it all aired. Ollie, Franklin III, and 4 other plaintiffs, CJ Rivas, I remember CJ, because CJ came in, I think he only appeared really on the first 2 episodes, and then he really wasn't much of a factor. DeAndre Johnson, I could see why. Tim Bonner and Isaiah Wright said that they have received no compensation for their contributions to the show. The former football players alleged they were pestered into signing basic contracts for the project and also claimed that they were hit with ultimatums that they would be barred from practice and games if they did not put pen to paper. Now, that's one thing that's kind of weird to me, is because I was listening to the Coach JB show, and he attested this, is that he had two guys, Jermaine Johnson and Coy Dang. They didn't sign the papers. They didn't sign off of it on it, and all they did was just not appear as much on the show. They didn't have much of a story on the show. Furthermore, they state in the docs they weren't allowed to consult with attorneys before agreeing to anything, and were not made aware of the proper market value of their name, image, and likeness. Let me see if there's anybody in here. Ignore my mouth. No shit. NIL really wasn't a whole thing back in the day. But again, we're talking about the market value of a company that basically, some they painted them in a bad light. I don't know, man. To make matters worse, a few of the plaintiffs also say they were wrongfully portrayed in a villainous manner on the show, which Ali stated in the docs eventually affected his employment in the NFL. I know he said something about this because John Gruden, I think, said something about it during Hard Knocks. And I think he was too portrayed in Hard Knocks as just a lazy kid and all this other stuff. And it was kind of weird. JB's been blackballed. He says he's been blackballed from coaching. Just a bunch of other things. And so here's what the attorneys for the athletes wrote in the suit. Make no mistake, each of these defendants have been unjustly enriched by intruding upon the private lives of the plaintiffs, taking unfair advantage of them through defendants' superior bargaining power, manipulating many of the plaintiffs' characters, along with other means for their own financial gain, while sacrificing any decent reputation the plaintiffs had. Here's where I am at this point. The only thing I can tell you is this. You have to understand where they are at. It's weird, honestly, just seeing that. But here's where I'm at on this. Is that, yes, and Last Chance U was supposed to be a documentary. What Netflix did is that they added their own little spin to it and made it like a reality show. They added the drama. They added all the craziness aspect to it. That's essentially what it turned into, an MTV series, to be honest with you. It turned into freaking two-a-days. And if you remember two-a-days, we talked with Brian Morgan, who got some airtime last week or last year over on our podcast network, and we talked a lot about his appearance on two-a-days. And he talked about that he stayed away from the drama, but while the cameras wanted all the drama. That's essentially what Netflix has done with this. Do I hope they win this law? I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of this lawsuit. But seeing what's happened recently with the Wolfpack lawsuit and with the Reggie Bush lawsuit and now this, it makes me wonder, not just with this, but who all else is going to be joining the lawsuit? Who all from Indy's going to join the lawsuit? Who all is anybody from Laney going to join the lawsuit? I don't know, man, because there's still a lot of things that need to be discussed about this. Do I think it's going to have a positive impact on where college football is going to be at the end of the day? I have no idea. Maybe, maybe not. But I do also believe that with time, you're going to see something come out of this that is going to attract more and more and more lawsuits against the NCAA. The NCAA is taking a freaking beating With eligibility lawsuits they're losing, and now the NIL lawsuits they're losing. This is just more that's going to come out of here, and more that's going to ultimately affect college football at the end of the day. All right. Let's get into some more things. This to me, this was the dumbest thing I probably have seen over the last couple of days. By the way, number 1 Auburn, number 2 Alabama playing right now. Auburn's up 11-4. And right now, we're only about 2.5 minutes in. You know, this is basically for the number 1 seed in all of college basketball. Johnny Broome, there's a reason why he could potentially be SEC Player of the Year at the end of it. I mean, when you're talking about 18, 10, and 3 so far this year, dominant forward. I think he may end up increasing that draft stock. That was a big get for Bruce Pearl and company coming from Morehead State. And, dude, he's turning into a stud. He's been a consistent and forward for the last 3 years while he's been at Auburn. Believe it or not, he almost went to Florida. All right. Greg Byrne has a wild-ass idea that is beyond stupid. So he's crying and says that from a safety standpoint, keeping people off the fields and courts is a good thing for everybody involved. If we said that the home team, if they storm the field or court, they're going to lose the game right then and there, and that will stop it. Greg Byrne, you have dominated the game. You are one of the – oh, my God, you are bad. Greg Byrne, you're horrible, dude. Greg Byrne is a joke as an AD at Alabama. He's been there since 2017. And here's the thing. Yes, you've had some big changes. You've hired Nate Oates. Congratulations. Now you're a basketball school somewhat. From Buffalo. You hired Brad Bohannon, who, by the way, is no longer there. That was a joke. But anyway. Now you're going in a new direction with this team who's back in the postseason. Here's my thing with him. He has not been my favorite as a head coach. He has not ever been my favorite as a AD. I thought he was a joke. And look, he's made decent hires, but this is so stupid because Alabama, have they ever had a field rush moment? No. And you got your ass kicked last year against Vandy and against Tennessee. Both led to field rushes. If you're mad about that, I don't know what to tell you. That is pathetic to be mad about. That is utterly pathetic. It's a joke that you think it's so stupid. Why would you think that that's a big deal? Field storming? But of course, it's Alabama and Greg Byrne. I'm shocked Greg Byrne hasn't been fired yet because he has been horrible as an AD. And he's so soft. That's what makes it worse, is that he's soft. Alabama's not going to have a field rush moment anytime soon. Even when they beat the number one team in the nation. They're not. It's going to be business as normal because of the high expectations. That's a stupid idea, and it's just saying that because he's complaining. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the big additions. Let me tell you this. Who's getting fired in 2025? Let's take a look at our hot seat tracker as we dive inside the hot seat. It's hot, bro. Let me tell you what. It's getting there. If I'm putting together my top 5, it's let me tell you, I'm looking at the top 10 right now according to coacheshotseat.com. By the way, shout out to them. I would not say I don't think Clark Lee is getting fired after this year. I just don't. I don't think it's going to happen. But I just do think that there's a lot going on there. Number 10, they have Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell at 10 is kind of low. Now, I understand you're coming off of a 2-10 season. I believe me, I understand that. But here is the thing, is that you're talking about an offense that tanked last year. FSU was horrible. You got physically dominated up front. Had no answer. You fired your offensive coordinator, by the way. You just fired another OC with Gabe Fertitta, who's now at Nichols. By the way, shut him out. He's a Baton Rouge guy. But here is my thing, is that if you're Mike Norvell and company, you have a lot that you need to work on. You got rid of Randy Shannon. You got rid of Adam Fuller. You got rid of Alex Atkins. Now you go into 2025 with a brand new roster or with a brand new coordinator and with a brand new damn system. You brought in Gus Malzahn from UCF. You brought in Tony White, who was the DC at Syracuse and then at Nebraska. He was at Arizona State before. Nebraska last year defensively, I don't know. Do I like the hire? I'll let you know at the middle of the season. Because Nebraska last year defensively, believe me, I know they look good at points during the year. But when you're playing offenses in the ACC, like a Miami, like a Clemson, I would say a Cal too, like a Louisville, hell, even a Georgia Tech, you have a lot to deal with in that moment in time. And so I think the biggest thing, though, is the offensive side of the ball. Look, defensively, I don't know what to think because it's young still. How do you respond offensively? How do you respond, dude? Because it's a lot. You got Deuce Robinson. That's good. That's a heck of a get for you. And I think he's playing baseball too. I could be wrong, though. Yeah, he I think he's playing baseball at Florida State as well. So that's a huge get for you there. Football-wise, who do you have that you can really say can make a big difference for you? 20, you don't know, honestly. 2025 is an interesting one for you because you still bring in Hakeem Williams, who's still a young guy. Hakeem Williams didn't get a whole lot of reps the last 2 years. Hakeem Williams has a lot of crazy ability. He's a freak of an athlete. And I think you need to get him more involved in this offense. And I think with a guy like Gus Malzahn, you can utilize those types of guys and get them involved in the offense. You got some big ones. Malik Benson, who's coming back. Jaylen Brown. We'll see how he is. Jaylen Brown's a dude. Make no mistake about that. Coming from LSU, I watched him. The guy has a lot of talent. Speed is the biggest key for him. SPEED, speed. Guy's extremely, extremely fast. And Ja'Kai Douglas. Those are your three guys that you got to roll with in 2025. Quarterback-wise, have fun. That's all I can tell you. Because that's all I can say. You got Dylan McNamara. You got Trevor Jackson. You got Brock Glenn. Now, do you choose to still stick with him? I don't know. Because, look, McNamara's got a lot of talent. I think so. I think the kid's got a heck of an arm. I think you could roll with him. He showed out in scout team twice. Looking at some other guys. Brock Glenn, what is he going to do this year if he is the starter? You don't know. You really don't know. Tommy Castellanos, how is this offense going to revolve around him? How are you going to be able to run the option with him? It's a perfect guy to be with, but he also has to utilize the outside with him as well. All right, let's go to number 9. Sonny Cumbie's an interesting one to me because Sonny Cumbie should have been fired after last year. I talked with many guys around the Monroe and Ruston area saying that he was going to get fired. It was inevitable he was going to get fired. And many people were shocked that he didn't. Guy was an offensive mastermind. Former Texas Tech quarterback, former OC with Tech, former OC with TCU. Now you come into LA Tech and you haven't been able to put it together. I mean, offensively, you've looked not that great. Now you go into 2024. I don't think that there was anything really wrong with the defense. I think you performed well defensively, but I think your offense has fallen well short. It's fallen short. Let's just be honest with you. Now he's at Coastal, by the way. Going into 2025, you bring in Luke Olson. You bring in a guy that is young, got a lot of experience at the FBS level, but how is he going to be able to matriculate that? Was that Jack State last year as the DC? I think he has a lot of guys that could be really good about him. You're obviously going to miss a lot with True Edwards, Dakotas Crawford, Hunter Lipton, John Loke, and Jaden Gray, who's all gone. You're obviously losing a guy like Pick Cage, who I think is at Nichols now. I could be wrong, though. Never mind. He's at UIW. My bad. Never mind. I thought he was at he's at UIW still. The kid has a lot of talent. But how does LA Tech go this year? I think they should have fired him after last year. Going on to number 8, Brett Brennan. Damn, that was quick. I'll just say that. That was quick. Brett Brennan goes from a guy that – look, I did not like the hire last year. When Arizona hired a guy like Brett Brennan, that was a bold move that they were pulling to get a guy like that. And everything just fell freaking apart. Brett Brennan is not a good coach, especially at the P4 level. He doesn't have that experience. That is the biggest problem. At the P4 experience, the best coaching that he's had, excluding GAs, is a receivers coach at Oregon State. That's it. We're talking about a guy who was Mountain West Coach of the Year in 2020 when they went 7-1. Okay, so what? Whatever. So Brett Brennan's got a lot to work on, all right? Especially on your offense. Your offense was horrible last year when you brought in Dino Babers. Your offense was a joke. And you got physically dominated. So now you bring in Seth Doge from Marshall, who is a pretty elite quarterback. Was an analyst for a little while. Now he's got his first real OC job as a P4 coach. What is he going to do? What is he going to bring as an OC? He's done really well with Purdue's tight ends. He did well with Marshall's offense last year in the things that they did in 2024, winning 10 games and dominating on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, here was a team that averaged just over 30 points a game after the month of September. You dominated on offense from that point. We'll see what happens with there. Going on to Mike Locksley. Mike Locksley, to me, should have been fired a long time ago. I don't know why Maryland beats the bush around with him. It doesn't make sense. Mike Locksley has never been ready to be a head coach. Mike Locksley is probably going to get fired after this year. The Talia Tagovailoa era gave him plenty of room to be a great head coach and to act like, oh, I had this, and so I'm going to be around for a little while. No, that ends after this year. Number 6, Scott Satterfield. All right. Scott Satterfield to me is an interesting one because I really like Scott Satterfield. I liked him whenever he was at Louisville and what he did there. But you never could get consistency with him. But I think after last year, look, you started Big 12 play in 2023 at 3-9. You were 1-8 in the Big 12. And then you'd take a step forward this year, actually. You went 5-7. Finished 3-6 in Big 12 play, which in reality doesn't seem great. You were amazing this year. You look great in some aspects. Started off the year at 5-2. Got a huge win early on against the eventual Big 12 champion. You beat Arizona State early in the year. But it's these collapses that you have at the end of the year that is going to destroy your reputation. That is going to destroy your program at the end of the day. I think that there is a lot that is still going to be in development for Scott Satterfield and company. I think you improved dramatically on the defensive side of the ball, especially when you added a guy like Tyson Veit, who is from Iowa State, and seeing what he did. I don't think Dante Corleone should come back. I think he should. Look, you can disagree with me. Dante Corleone is a very, very good interior guy. The guy can be a freak athlete, but we'll see. I think he's back. I could be severely incorrect. Yeah, he's back. Oh, he's back. Look, Dante Corleone is going to be one of the best interior guys in college. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. You can disagree with me if you want. Dante Corleone is a man-child. 6'2", 320 pounds. The guy is a freak of nature. The guy's been is a Cincinnati kid all of his life, born in Cincinnati, Ohio, went to Coltrane High School in Cincinnati. He's a 3-time all-conference. He's going to finish off his season or finish off his career at Cincinnati. 20-minute drive out to the University of Cincinnati. So he's been a Cincinnati kid, born and bred. But I think Cincinnati is a dark horse to me, especially when you look at what you have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a team that seriously could consider. I think they're have an opportunity to get to 6 or 7 wins and make a bowl game. I mean, you bring in a guy like Tawee Walker, who's coming off of an 864-yard season, averaged over 5 yards a carry in 2023 with Oklahoma. Electric out of the backfield, and I think Cincinnati is going to utilize him well. I think this is a team that can win 6 or 7 games too and can save Scott Satterfield. I would say that he's a little bit down. Number 5 to me, it should be higher, Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer, the experiment in Birmingham has been a disaster. Scout can attest to this. I talked to him about it. We've talked about him, and it's just been terrible. He does not love. He says he likes Birmingham, but we don't know what it is. Number 4, Brent Venables. Brent Venables to me is a bit expensive though to fire, especially this year. So we'll see what happens. Number 3, and to be honest with you, I think we should switch these two. It's Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley to me is probably number 1 on my list. Lincoln Riley is everywhere he's gone. Defenses are just terrible. Your defenses are horrible. Lincoln Riley needs to look himself in the mirror and say, I'm an offensive coordinator. I am not even close to being a head coach. Sure, I had a great offense at Oklahoma. Sure, I had a great offense at East Carolina. But ever since I've been with USC, I have not done anything defensively. Last year, Alex Grinch, horrible hire. You bring it back this year. D'Anton Lynn and Eric Henderson. I don't know, man. You have moments where they look good and then moments where you're just like, what the hell are you calling? I don't know, man. So now you go into this year, you bring in a new offensive coordinator, you lose Josh Henson, who I think is now at Purdue as the OC there. Eric Henderson and D'Anton Lynn, to me, 2 guys that I love as defensive coordinators, and we got to hurry up before we get out of here. But big year for Lincoln Riley. If they finish with a losing season in the Big 12, which in the Big 10, or if they end up having a bowl loss, he's either getting fired this year or next year. I don't think they keep him around much longer. Number 2, Kenny Burns is what they have. 1-23 as a head coach, and you haven't done jack coming from Minnesota as a running backs coach. And by the way, is now in court having an unpaid $24,000 credit card debt. Doesn't help your case. Plus, and number 1, Luke Fickell. I would switch Lincoln Riley and Luke Fickell. I think Lincoln Riley is number 1. But look, Luke Fickell's been there for 2 years. Okay? And I know they took a step back horribly in 2023 or in 2024. 2025 is a big one to me. 2022, you had to take over for Jim Leonard. I thought you could have kept Jim Leonard, but that never worked out at the end of the day. I feel like you basically showed him blatant disrespect by getting rid of him, and it was unbelievable. I feel like you could have kept him around too. I like Jim Leonard. All right. Wisconsin basically fell off after they lost to Washington State. They haven't done anything. Your offense is anemic. 2024 is a big one for you. Or 2025 is a big one. Offensively, you have done nothing whatsoever. Now you bring in Jeff Grimes from Kansas, who was the OC there. You got to turn it around offensively. If you are a bottom 3 offense in the Big Ten again, And if you finish with a losing record, it's bye-bye for Luke Fickell because of his inability to hire and his inability to coach. He's a great defensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. Guys, that's going to do it for today. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe to all those groups. Make sure that you like us on all the social medias. Make sure you follow all the social medias, and we will see you